Welcome, the fourth episode of Boldcast, and my name is Nicholas, but you can call me Nick.
Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Morning, my name is Theo, and welcome to Boldcast. Today's episode is kind of a continuation of last week. We're discussing abuse and in all its forms and the hidden layers. Yeah.
All right, and we did briefly talk about it in last week's episode, and we're going deeper into it today.
So we're going to talk about the different forms. And funny, we live in a society that has most people not knowing that they face abuse every day in everyday situations because for some of the things we are actually taught that they are normal, you know. I can cite something like in a marriage, a husband hitting you. Back then, I don't know about now, and I always say this, I don't know about now, I talk about the teachings that I was taught. Back then it was, if your husband hits you, it's a sign of jealousy and it's a sign of love, so he loves you. So you're conditioned to think physical abuse is a form of love. Even as kids, parents, guardians, elders will hit you and then will not apologize or will not explain why they hit you. And then they'll tell you something like, I wanted you to learn. So you're taught that being physically abused is part of a learning, it's a learning, it's some kind of form of education, some kind of learning that you need to do to face life out there. Yeah, anyway, I'm talking too much.
And in a country like ours, the one form of abuse that is focused on more than any other is domestic abuse, GBV. But today we'll look at other forms. And the more I learn about abuse, the more I realize that I myself have been abusive
So have I.
many times in my past relationships. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't even know that some of the actions that they exhibit in their relationships are actually abusive.
One form of abuse is, I don't know if this is going to be emotional, but I'm traumatized. You went to the salon and you didn't tell me. Look at my hair. Anyway, sibling abuse.
Abusive.
So, me making you feel guilty about something and being emotionally manipulative. That's abuse. Yes, so even the GBV, the domestic violence, it's funny. When cases like such as that go to the places like the police, you find law enforcement officers telling you, they'll get back together. So I think domestic violence actually gets away, with that's why it's all over, it's rampant, because people know they can hit people and they'll get away with it because, there's love. Vamala vivut, as they say. I've actually seen that happen where somebody reports and then they say, Vamchwat, go and sort it out first at home. But what if you go back home and the person actually kills you? Yeah.
Yes, and last week Theo did talk about briefly about her experience in when you were married off.
Thank you.
When you were married off and your experience in that relationship, I saw part, just a little part of what happened there, and we'll get to that as well. All right, but talking of the forms of abuse, let's start there. Let's start with GBV, domestic abuse, and not a week passes without seeing a report in the news on different tabloids, talking about a man battered his wife in this province, or a woman battered her husband in this other province. Every week we see this happening. Just yesterday on Lusaka Times, we saw a report that had both early marriages and teenage pregnancies, which we were talking about last week, and abuse, which we were talking about today. In the same report, we saw that. And that alone is proof that it's something that we're still dealing with here in Zambia. And I feel like one of the reasons is what you just said. We've normalized it. We've made it part of a relationship, a marriage, when it's not supposed to be part of it.
Even family, just growing up, physical abuse will start from family, it will start from... So when it turns into GBV up there, right? Or not domestic violence, we've seen kids. I remember walking down the road, and then I saw this boy hitting a little. He was about 10, I think, and then he slapped like an 8-year-old, or maybe she was 10, but quite smaller in stature. I don't know. And then he really slapped, and I was, why are you slapping her? And then he goes like, Aniyamba, you know, she's fighting with me. I said, but no, you're bigger. You're a boy. Boys don't hit girls. And he asked me, so what was I supposed to do? So I said, walk away.
But then when we were growing up, we were told by different elderly people, and I feel like somehow it's part of the cause, that if a girl is kind of, I in primary, there was a girl, I remember her name, Sylvia, that really traumatized me, and every time I saw her, I missed class for weeks, you know, just
why?
She was savage.
Oh, okay.
But then we were told if a girl is doing that, she likes you, or if a boy is, you know, bullying a girl, then he likes her. So I feel somehow this is part of, we grow up believing, it's part of yes. So when a husband is hitting a wife, then Alina and Sanjay, he's just jealous, and if he's jealous, then it means he loves you.
He's
protective.
His own, yes.
So society has contributed to us accepting what is not normal and making it part of, you know, our lives.
Yeah.
And out there, it's a lot of abuse happening, not just domestic violence, and sometimes it doesn't even involve hitting.
Yeah. So okay, so basically there is like about how many types of abuse? There is physical abuse, where domestic violence will fall under. There is emotional psychological abuse, and then there is sexual abuse. There is child abuse. Which one have I? And there's financial abuse.
I saw one which was quite interesting. I never even knew about it until last week. Digital abuse. Digital abuse. I had no idea.
So another thing is, most people in Zambia don't know that they actually commit, or should I say commit, gender-based violence, digital abuse. They do not know that. I only learned about this when I was writing about something that involved cyberbullying, and then this popped up. And then I was like, so people don't know, like, but they know, because we always preach about how we should stop bullying people on virtual platforms. But people start saying you're just sensitive. Did you see the comment on the post that you did and I shared about today's episode? So this person that I know or used to know back then comes and says, we're talking about abuse, and he comes and says, Wala, you're just weak or soft, something like that. So like, excuse me? But he did come back to explain. So Dennis, I want you to come back and explain what you meant that we're weak when we're talking about abuse. Yeah, I had to call you out. So I'm still like flabbergasted. I'm like, okay, so what do you mean we're weak? I've seen these sentiments on people that I converse with on social media. They go like, people are just too sensitive these days. People are just, no, we're not sensitive. We're trying to unlearn behaviors that way, you know, that were instilled in us. Because these are things that people used to tolerate in the past. Doesn't mean we should tolerate them, and our children should tolerate them, and our children's children. We should try to strive to be a better society. We should strive to make better people, better human beings. Just because we pass through things doesn't mean everybody else should. You know, so this is abuse. We're going to call it what it is. It's abuse. I've been abusive. I've been on the other side. I've been abused. If I find it wrong, let me talk about it. You're not going to come and tell me that I'm weak for expressing my emotions and calling you out on your, what's the polite way?
Just go on out.
Yes.
But yes, I've heard such sentiments as well, and especially on the men's part, when you realize that you need to do better in a certain way, and you are making efforts to be better in that way, and you get in touch with your emotions, as every normal human being should be. You know?
I mean, if you weren't supposed to get in touch with your emotions, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't have them in the first place. But you get in touch with your emotions, and you are seen by other men as weak, all because you are acknowledging this part of you. It's part of you.
Which is wrong, which should do better. You know, that part of you that you want to to make better.
And I feel like it comes from a long way from way back when we were told men should be this way, men should be that way, and most of these things they told us to be involved, not dealing with your emotions. Don't cry, don't deal with your emotions. Don't express yourself, don't deal with your emotions. So while girls were taught to handle their emotions, men were taught to bottle their emotions. That is why today, I think I've said this a number of times, I do not believe it when a person tells me women are weaker than men.
No.
We have a lot to do as men. We must start with dealing with our emotions first. We never learned to do that. Mm-hmm. And we must start there. But when you start doing that, you're seen as weak.
I think the fact that men can't deal with their emotions is what triggers these abusive traits in their relationships. Yes. Actually, I think for every human being that hasn't learned how to deal with their emotions, they start displaying very toxic traits in their relationships, everyday relationships. It just doesn't mean your lover or your partner or your spouse. I think even as in your workplace, in your life, like family, you just start displaying these toxic traits around people. And that's why I'm very picky with the energy that I bring around me. I want to know if people have dealt with themselves, their emotions, they know how to do that before I bring them close to me, because people are just walking around with very, very and dealt with trauma that some don't even want to acknowledge. I really respect those that come and say, I think I act this way because of, But anyway, let's get to explaining what different forms of abuse are, and then because we keep on going and going and we haven't explained the thing.
Oh yes, you've actually mentioned if not all of them, and you've mentioned sexual, emotional, and psychological abuse, physical abuse, child abuse, digital abuse, and financial abuse. So let's start defining them. Physical abuse first.
Why should we go to physical abuse? Because it's the most common, you think?
Okay, let's skip it.
No. Okay, so physical abuse here is any intentional unwanted contact with you or something close to your body, or any behavior that causes or has the intentions of causing you injury, disability, or death. So examples of physical abuse, obviously these are very common, we know them. Mm-hmm. So there's scratching, punching, biting, strangling, choking, or kicking. Strangling, unwanted strangling, not the strangling that you do when you're doing BDSM. That is consented strangling. So we're talking about unwanted. Throwing items at you like a phone, most of us do this, book, shoe, or plate. Pulling your hair, unwanted pulling of hair. Pushing or pulling you or forcibly grabbing your clothing. So all the things we're talking about here is unwanted. Threatening to use or using a gun, knife, box cutter, bat, mace, or any other weapon against you. Touching any part of you without your permission or consent. Forcing you to have sex or perform a sexual act. Grabbing your face to make you look at them. Preventing you from leaving or forcing you to go somewhere. That's some examples of physical abuse.
Have you been physically abusive?
Physically abused?
Oh, physically abusive. You yourself?
Yes, I have.
All right.
Yes, I have. So I've thrown stuff. At people. I've grabbed people. I've actually hit people. Mm-hmm. What else have I done? I've pulled hair, and I've done that.
Is it something that
even the choking or the strangling? Yes.
Is it something you've learned from?
Yes. It's actually something that I went and sought therapy for, and public announcement, because I have lots of people taunting me about how I look so tough and I drink a soft beer, Flying Fish. So this is why I don't take spirits anymore, because every time I took spirits, vodka used to be like my favorite go-to drink. But every time I take spirits, I would end up with a very, 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 in a very bad space, bad temper. My temper, the temper that I used to have. So since then, I just decided to take care of myself, take care of my mental health and the health of those around me, physical and mental. I just decided to cut down on the spirits and watch myself. Yeah.
I've been physically abusive in my past relationships, and at some point, I was peaceful. I was okay emotionally, and in my last relationship, a temper that I thought I had.
I don't know which last relationships he's talking about because anyway.
My last relationship.
Okay.
A temper that I thought and anger
one.
issues that I thought were dealt with came surfaced. They came back up to the top, and I realized no, this is something. You're the first person I contacted to say I need a therapist, and you gave me that number of that therapist and I realized this is something that I thought was dealt with, and it's not. It's just been lying there, and I've been suppressing it, and this is something that needs to be dealt with, and it has to go. And years ago, I even got into the sales for yes. Have I laid hands on a woman? Yes, I have. Is it something I regret? Yes. I got into the sales for a few days. For
yeah, that was over the long weekend.
That was over the long weekend. So I spent about a week in the sales. For assault, and I think I was an angry, broken. There was everything wrong with that time.
I think we were all. I think you and I were angry because your temper is something that I used to have to like. I always explain to people that I would feel like Bruce. His name is Bruce, right? The Hulk.
Oh yes.
Yes. Like I would watch the Hulk and I would think this is how I feel when I'm getting upset. Like he sees green, I see red. Like you can't say anything to me. Like nothing will make sense when I'm in that space. I can't think, I can't function. All I want is there's this rage and it has to come out. And funny, I would go home after whatever episode, pass out. Then I would wake up at maybe after 3 hours and I would be like, what did I do? So it was like two different personalities. And then I thought, I'm letting my anger control me instead of me controlling this anger. Like I even call it my anger, my temper. So I stopped.
That's dangerous when you start owning it.
Yes, I started detaching, went for therapy, and we did anger management. And well, right now you can come at me with, I've seen people actually thinking I'm angry, and I'm looking at them and thinking, I'm not angry. They'll see me do a Facebook post while I'm typing that, I'm laughing. I'm laughing, I'm smiling, I'm going, okay, I'm going to say this, and people will be like, oh, you're angry. No, I'm not. I'm actually at peace. I was just posting that. But yeah, so I dealt with that. I've dealt with that anger now. Yeah.
But that's set up. We've both been abusive in some relationships. Have you experienced? I don't even know why I'm asking this. Physical abuse.
Yeah, I don't know why you're asking this because you were there some of the times. Yeah. So I think my longest term of physical abuse was during the time I was married off. Yes. So we come from a family where sibling fights would happen, physical, verbal, whatever, because we were a large family, like I said. But I think we were not really that, hands-on people, like we're not really physical. So then I get into this space where this person is, to this day, I think he actually had either bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, one of the two anyway. So this person will wake up and they're in a bad mood, and I learned to tell the signs where I would know that today is going to end up in a physical fight. Today I'm going to end up being beaten up. I'm going to end up on the ground. I'm going to end up being choked or whatever. So that was in the beginning. In the beginning it was, the choking, the hitting, the slapping, and whatever, Then it got worse to strangling, like a whole cable, being strangled. And then it finally got to a point where he would get the gun and, point it at my head. And I really, really, I am fascinated with guns. And then I had an experience where this person actually uses something that I love to you know, yeah, to abuse me. So one of the things he said about me was he needed to tame me. And for me, it was, I'm not an animal. Why am I being tamed? Which later translates as I'm too assertive, I talk back. So he wanted the submission that Zambian men think a woman should have. So he wanted submission, but I wasn't raised to submit. I was raised in a space where I could talk. I read, and when I read, I knew people should use their brains, and if something doesn't sit right by you, you should say it. So I get into this space where somebody thinks because they have a person who's, I think, about 11 years younger than them, they're a man, and we just came from different settings. And then, so the abuse starts. First, it was when I was pregnant. So you can imagine I was living with somebody who thought it was okay to hit me when I was pregnant. And then after that, it was any random day, things like, I remember when we were still living in the farms, I had a friend from the opposite farm, Gladys. She was like my only friend back then. So Gladys walks over, she comes and she's calling me by the name that everybody that grew up with me calls me. And she was like, Manambo, And then this guy walks out and he's very upset, and I don't know if she will remember this, but he got upset and he says, her name is not Manambo anymore, her name is Marke Selena. Don't call her that. And I'm like, why are you yelling at my friend? This is my friend, like, she's my friend.
And that's something I experienced, so you don't remember? That's
when you called me.
Yes, and
you see, he would get upset over irrational stuff.
That's something I experienced too, and don't call her that.
Yes, don't call her that. So now this person is trying to change everything about me, even my hair. Because when I went there, I had these short dreads. He says, no, you're not supposed to have this. Can you cut them, or Next, you shouldn't be wearing pants. You should wear dresses. And I didn't realize how abusive that was, because even my dressing changed. Remember how when we moved to Kuomboka, people started thinking I was Muslim. Because now they actually used to, because I'm dark, and then I was very thin. Guys, I was thin when I was thin. Anyway, so I was dark, I was thin, and then I had this long hair, and I was always covered up. The guy used to buy me,
so that's
not really
that's
the
what that
hijab.
was.
Yes, but he used to buy me the long dresses that Muslim girls wear and pants. So I started dressing like a Muslim, and people thought, he would be like, no, you really look nice in this, but it was actually a way of covering me up. I can't walk to the gate and say hi to the neighbor's husband, just a normal hi. I'm a very jovial, social person. Usually I like talking to people. I wasn't allowed to do that. I wasn't allowed to say hi to anything that was male. If I get close to a woman, she has to be married. Also, he has to know what we were talking about. So there now was the emotional abuse, psychological abuse, the manipulation also came in. So I'm a person who has experienced all forms, different forms of abuse. I've experienced child abuse. I've experienced sexual abuse. I've experienced sexual abuse even in my marriage as a form of marital rape. I've experienced financial abuse in the form that when I was living with him, I wasn't working. I was totally dependent on him. So there would be days when he hits you. He hits you today. Maybe this is night. Tomorrow morning he has to leave. Him and his brothers leave, and we used to live with his brother's wife. So he would lock me up in the bedroom. The bedroom we used to occupy was a self-contained bedroom, so he knows I'm going to have everything. So he's going to lock me up in the bedroom, and then now his brother's wife is the one who's going to come at the window. And I swear I owe so much to that woman, even though I don't talk to her as much as I would like to. She'd come to the window and ask me, Marke Selena, are you okay? And would talk through the window. I'm in a locked room. The farm had a fence. The gate would be locked. So in as much as I'm being abused, she's also being abused because she's also locked up. So you can't go anywhere. On days that I'm free to roam the house, the gate would be locked. So it would be like chickens in a yard, If people come to the gate, we have to talk to them at the gate and say, oh no, they've gone with the kids. And really, this is a true story. they'll go with the kids and they'll leave us. The gate will be open when they come back. So then she would bring me food through the window. I have a bathroom. He doesn't care. I can bath. I'll use the ablution. It's fine. And then he'll come back, depending on whatever mood he's in. Then I'll be free to leave the room or whatever. Other times when this is going to happen, maybe at night, maybe you're having the fight at night, like 21, he'll lock you out of the house. And we live in Lusaka West, you're not going to find a bus or a cab at 21. So which means, and when I say out, I don't mean out, you go and sleep in the sitting room. I mean out, because the room had a door that would lead to the garage. So he'll lock you out, so you'll be in the garage. If you want, you can get out of the garage and go and roam the farm, but you'll be out. So there are times I would spend the night outside. There are times when I would spend the day indoors. There are times it would be a whole thing. You were locked in the morning till whatever time you came back. Evening, another fight, you're locked out, you know. So there was that. Then there was the hitting, and then there was the choking. So one of the times that traumatized me is when we moved to Kwamboka, and then I was able to live with the kids again. Because remember last time I said mom had gotten the kids. So when we moved to Kwamboka, we started living with the kids again. And this time that I really remember is him holding me down, pinning me down, and then the kids are terrified, standing there, and then there's Stephanie, and there's Selena, and then they're holding each other, and they're looking at their parents, screaming, their dad holding their mom down. And he's screaming at them because at this point he knows I'm struggling too hard. If I get up, I'm going to hit him with like whatever I'm going to find, you know. So he's screaming at the kids, bring the cable. And that was like the DSTV cable. Mm-hmm. So bring the cable, and the kids are terrified, you know. They're standing there and they don't know what to do. And I'm screaming, don't. And he's like, bring it. So now they're scared. They don't know what to do. So he wants the kids to bring the cable so he can strangle me with that. And look, you're using the kids, you're already terrifying them, and then you're using them to perform this horrific act, and they're watching their mom do this. They don't know, because now they don't know what to do. They don't know which parent to choose. They don't even know if they should run out of the house and call the neighbors. They're petrified. And I think that is the point where I felt I need to leave this place. I don't care if I don't work. I don't care if I don't have an income. I don't care. I need to leave. Because I looked at my kids standing there watching me, and I said, I don't want to raise my kids thinking that, you know, this is life. I don't want my kids to think, they're girls. I don't want them to think this is what love looks like. This is what marriage looks like. I do not want that. If not for me, I should survive for my kids, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is when I started really, really wanting to leave that. One of the other straws was, so most people back then in the farms, most families had firearms, you know. So they had a revolver and they had a rifle. So the revolver used to be in his room. So this one time, again, he can't hold me down and whatever, so he just pulls out the gun, you know, goes, gets the gun, and as I was about to run out of the door that led out, and then he points the gun at me. So the gun pointing wasn't a once-off thing, but that one was the most terrifying. The gun pointing started when he knew that he couldn't control me or tame me. So he would point the gun at me, and then I would stop. So one of the threats that he used to use was, I'm going to go to you. This time, we're still in Lusaka, so the kids are with mom. So he would tell me, I'm going to go, and this is the gun is at my head. And then he would tell me, I'm going to your mom. Because him and my mom used to get along, because he used to show her a very nice, you know, side of him. So he would say, I'm going to go to your mom, and I'm going to tell her that you're not feeling well. I'm going to tell her you're sick. So I'm going to tell her you want to see the kids. And then I'm going to come here with the kids, and I'm going to shoot the kids in front of you. Then I'm going to shoot you. Then I'm going to shoot myself, you know? So this was a threat I used to hear all the time. And to this day, anyone who messes with my kids, yeah, one day I'll get you. So then I would stop. Now this time I'm like, you know, I'm done. I'm really, really done. So he gets the revolver, and then I'm at the door struggling with the key. And then he says, I'm going to shoot you, and he's looking mad and whatever. Now, we start struggling. My life has been a movie. We start struggling, and the gun goes off. So now his brothers, because every time we'd be fighting, his family would be like, Vasi and Vow, you know. So then his brothers hear this, and they go like, okay, shit, now shit is real. Excuse my French. And they come to bang on the other door that leads into the other part of the house, and it was like this wooden door that you can't break down. So now I start screaming. One of them comes to the window, sees, oh, there's a gun in the mix. Now they rush to the other door that leads to the garage, which was a lighter frame. So now we're struggling, you know, and eventually the door is open and they burst in, and there's a whole lot of struggling going on, and the guy still has the gun and he's trying to point it at me and he's saying he's going to kill me, he's going to shoot me. Now the gun goes off, and then like I think about 4 or 5 times. So ceiling, I think 3 in the wall, you know, and we're very lucky that it didn't ricochet and hit anyone. But yeah, so in this process, I ran off, you know, like I start running and he's running after me, and I think the last bullet, because it had 6, then yeah, and I ran so hard. I was in my tropicals. I was, I think, in a skirt or anything, I don't know, but I really ran, and I went to some other friend of mine. She's dead now. Mumbi. They used to have the shop, at Kalundu there. So I just said, you know what? Like, I'm really asking for any amount of money that you have. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. So she gave me a 5 kwacha, which was like, back then it was enough for transport, because I could get on a bus, I think, for 3 kwacha from the farms, and then get on a bus to Komboka to mom's, like for 1.5 or something. And I got there and I was looking so disheveled. I was just in a state. I'm sure even people on the bus were looking at me like, dude, what's going on? So I get there and I said, I'm not going back. You know, this guy tried to kill me. Like, I'm not going back. So I think that was probably maybe one of the longest times I was allowed to stay there. So I stayed there for like, I think a week. And then he comes and he apologizes and yeah, back in the mix. Yeah, so that was part of the ordeal that I experienced as physical abuse. Sexual abuse in marriage was marital rape, which I do not understand to this day, where this is just a guy's from hitting you. You've had a fight, and maybe if you date me, you understand why I don't understand make-up sex, because look, you're upset, you're both in a zone. Why do you want to have sex? So he hits you, and then he comes and then he wants to have sex. Why do you want to have sex with me? I'm here, I'm swollen, I'm dealing with my emotions, can you leave me alone? And then he would get upset, and well, there we go. He needs to have sex, and I would be there looking at him immobile, and that would infuriate him some more, and he would hit you. How are you having sex with somebody? You're hitting, like, even in the process. So yeah, but then I didn't know that was marital rape. It was because the teachings were, you have to give your body to your husband.
No matter what.
No matter what, in whatever circumstance, when he demands he wants to have sex, you need to have sex.
That part of traditional counseling, traditional teachings should be rubbed off.
Lots of parts of traditional counseling should be rubbed off. I think we can pick out a few things that we can, and then the rest really is just, for me, it's just, yeah.
That sounds like a whole package. That there's a lot of emotional abuse in that story. There's a lot of financial. There's psychological. There's sexual and physical abuse all in there. And there's a lot that maybe even he thought he was doing right. And a lot of men out there and a lot of women out there are doing these things, thinking this is right. I'm the man, I'm the head of this marriage. I need to have sex whether you like it or not. But that still falls under sexual abuse, you know.
It falls under what the feminists call toxic masculinity. When you see feminists saying these are forms of toxic masculinity, and it's funny that you even find them in women, which I'm not surprised at, because most of us are brought up in a setting where there's a man, there's a woman, and they see these traits growing up, and they begin to form part of your character traits, and you grow up and you don't realize you as a woman also has a form of toxic masculinity, yeah. So anyway,
And I feel like things like consent are things that should be extensively taught and sensitized across both genders, because sometimes there is silence, and just because she hasn't said no doesn't mean she's said yes.
And just because she has drunk your six-pack of flying fish doesn't mean she has said yes. Yeah.
That's true. And sometimes she doesn't say anything because there's been a history of physical violence, and she's scared of what she would do if she says no. So she'd rather be quiet, but just because she's quiet doesn't mean she has said yes. And so there's a lot of sexual rape, marital rape that's happening out there, and people don't even know that they're committing it, and people don't even know that it's happening. Even the women themselves sometimes don't know. Like, you didn't know that it was marital rape because you were in the dark, and there was all of this teaching of Vana Chimbusa, telling you this must happen whether you like it or not, whether you're in the mood or not, whether you are able to or not.
And it's really disgusting what they say. They'll tell you you need to have sex with your husband at any given point. Nanguna ulwala malaria. This is something that I've heard. Nanguna ulwala malaria. Elo kukaba sana.
I don't know. But
anyway, yeah.
There are other forms of abuse that happen out there, and we have no idea that it is abuse. Financial abuse is one of them. And some examples of financial abuse. Firstly, defining
it.
Define it.
Okay, so financial abuse often operates in more subtle ways than any other forms, but it can just be harmful to those who experience it. So financial abuse really is when you're the one who holds the finances and
sort of like the breadwinner.
Yes. And then this can happen, like in my case, where he knew he's the one who brought the income to the table, so I can't do anything, I can't go anywhere. He controls me using finances. Financial abuse is also, I learned recently when I was doing my counseling course, that even this thing we have of getting their phone and breaking it, that's financial abuse, because, well, that's stuff that can be bought. Breaking cars, which I'm guilty of, breaking windows, stuff that need money, that's some form of financial abuse. The person that will date me next will be very lucky, because I've learned a lot of stuff through whatever experiences I've gone through. So examples of financial abuse can be giving you an allowance or monitoring what you buy. What did you do with your money?
No, well, you had 100 kwacha. How come you're 50 kwacha now? Where's the other 50 kwacha?
Yes.
How did you use it?
Depositing your paycheck into an account you can't access. I know someone who does this. Preventing you from seeing shared bank accounts or records. Forbidding you from working or limiting the hours that you do. Now, forbidding you from working. I remember when
Isn't that something that happened in our house?
Yes. Oh, yes. That's something that happened in our house. Yeah. I don't even want to explain it, but I was going to explain my part.
Mom was a nurse, and she's
and then when
her career ended.
Yes, because he said he could take care of her,
and so she didn't need to work.
So she didn't need to work. And then
so I think he wanted control. It
was control. No, he wanted.
He didn't want her moving, going anywhere. Yeah. He wanted her where he could see her. That right there is financial abuse.
Yeah, I did a little psychological too. So, getting you fired by harassing you, your employer or your co-workers. Yes, there are people who do this to you, especially you people who have exes who say, "I'm going to come to your workplace and do this."
Oh, I've had that happen to me. Yes, move on.
Preventing you from going to work by taking your car keys or any other mode of transportation. Using your social security number to obtain loans without your permission. Using your child's social security number to claim an income tax refund. Maxing out your credit cards without permission. Refusing to provide you with money, food, rent, medicine, or clothing. Using funds from your children's tuition or joint savings account without your knowledge. Spending money on themselves while preventing you from doing the same. Giving you presents or paying for things with the expectation of something in return. You see why I refuse gifts? I don't know what you want in return. using financial circumstances to control you. Now, the example I was going to give about myself was after I was married off, and then at some time, my mom said, okay, she needs to go back to school, so she made this, they came to an agreement where she said she would pay for the first term, then he would pay for the second, and whatever. So my mom honors her end of the bargain, and I start going. Then this started from the people we used to live with in his house, and they were like, and this is a conversation I heard, so I'm not making this stuff up. And they say, and in the mix is a woman, and she's saying, you're taking your wife to school. You don't educate women. Women are going to get it. She's going to get educated and she's going to leave you. That's what women do. And they had a whole meeting about my education as his wife. So when it was time for him to pay, he says, no, I'm not going to do it. How? So that's the financial abuse. The psychological abuse came in. I think this was also physical. When I would go to school, because where I was going to school was like the classes were upstairs, and then the reception was downstairs. So I'm coming down, and I was really, really happy to go back to school, because now I was with people my age who didn't have 2 kids like me. But I was just happy because I was back in a space where I was with young people. That is why teenage pregnancy is a form of child abuse too. Because look, I got pregnant and I was a child, and I'm forced to live with adults and do adult things. But take me back to a setting where I'm with my own age, and I was really, really happy, you see? Anyway, so you come down the stairs and the guy is there, waiting for you, waiting to see if you're going to be talking to a boy, or you're too happy, or you're laughing. I do not know. On days when he wouldn't show up at school and I get home, I was given a specific time, like to be home by, he's calculated the distance and everything. You should be home by 16:30 or maybe 16:34. But if you get home at, let's say, 16:50, 17, the type of sexual abuse I would be subjected to, and this is something that I've seen on these pages like Zambian weddings and kitchen parties, my whatever. Anyway, these platforms. I've seen situations that I look at and go like, oh, I've gone through this. Anyway, so I would be. He would conduct. This was sexual abuse, and it was also emotional abuse. He would tell me like, okay, you're late. Undress, and then because these are candid conversations, so believe me, I can say anything to my brother. So he says undress, and then he's going to stick a finger in and then smell it. So he has to smell if maybe the lubricant from a condom, or maybe semen, if I'm smelling of sex. So, and I'm going through all this, and I'm being subjected to all this. I'm being subjected to an unwanted test that I don't even think is normal. And this is what marriage should be. And I'm like, no, I need to get the hell out of this place. So there were so many forms of abuse, and I really didn't know, but I knew something was wrong. I want to go to emotional and verbal abuse. So emotional abuse includes non-physical behaviors such as threats, insults, constant monitoring, checking in, excessive texting, humiliation, intimidation, isolation, or stalking. Relationships can still be unhealthy or abusive even without physical abuse. Please get this. Examples of behaviors that qualify as emotional or verbal abuse include calling you names or putting you down, telling you what to do or what to wear, yelling or screaming at you, intentionally embarrassing you in front of others or starting rumors about you, preventing you from seeing or communicating with friends or family, alienation, or threatening to have your children taken away from you. I'm going to shoot the kids in front of you. Damaging your property, throwing objects, punching walls, kicking doors. There are people who say, and I was one of these people who would say, when I get upset, I want to throw something against the wall so that I shouldn't touch you. But well, we're still.
I'm a culprit of that as well, so many times, and my excuse has been, I'd rather hurt myself and punch the wall than
But
hurt
it's
you.
scaring the
But
other
it's
person.
still
Yeah.
emotional abuse,
Yeah.
and these are the things we're talking about. We do these things, culprits of these things, and we don't know it.
Yeah. Using online communities or communications to control, intimidate, or humiliate you, blaming abusive or unhealthy behavior on you or actions. It's because you did this. That's why I am doing this. We heard that a lot.
I'm sorry I did that, but I only did that because you did this.
Yes. It's because I love you so much, so I had to do this. Yeah. Being jealous of outside relationships or accusing you of cheating. You're too close to Nick. Are you sure? You and Nick are too close. Really. Stalking you or your loved ones. Why did this person put a heart reaction on?
Oh yeah, so I saw that.
Why does this person call you babe on Facebook?
We saw that this week.
Yes.
Somewhere on Facebook.
Yes. Threatening to harm you, your pets, or people in your life. Threatening to harm themselves to keep you from ending the relationship. I have to talk about this, but I guess I'm going to talk about it in one of the other episodes. Gaslighting you by pretending not to understand or refusing to listen to you. This is something I have seen a lot, even in my most recent relationships, where you feel something, you feel some type of way, and the person makes it like
Makes you
you're
look like a
really
crazy for feeling.
overreacting, or you're being paranoid or whatever. Yes.
Or you're just insensitive.
Yes.
You're just too
sensitive. You're too sensitive.
You're
Yes.
just being too dramatic.
Yes.
Meanwhile, it's a valid, pain,
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah. So questioning your recollection of facts. Are you sure I said that? I didn't say that. Events or sources. You would believe Nick. You'd believe Nick over me. Well, so I keep on using you, so you're the one here. Trivializing your needs or feelings, you're too sensitive, or denying previous statements, I never say that, or promises, me, I didn't promise you. So anyway, making you feel guilty or immature when you don't consent to sexual activity. Threatening to expose personal details such as your sexual orientation or immigration status. That's types of emotional and verbal abuse. Funny, I was once dumped in a relationship for saying the person was really offended, and by then I couldn't understand it, because being Bemba, I say Fiabupuba a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently from their setting it was something used as an insult. Also, I say Atase a lot, and apparently it doesn't sit well with some people, and I'm like, I'm Bemba, these are just epithets that we use, So I have to be more considerate. Now, I want to go to emotional abuse that I faced during my stint in marriage. One of the things, because back then we didn't have smartphones and we didn't have Google, so thank heavens I read a lot. And since mom was a nurse, there was medical journals in the books in the house,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go through them when I was bored and had nothing to read. So now this person would tell me things like, I have cancer, when you're about to leave, because this business of I really want to leave just started, I think, from day one. I just wanted out. So then he would turn into this sweet soul and tell you, I have cancer and I'm dying, so if you leave me, I don't know who I'm going to be with, So this person used this cancer card a lot on me, until one day, I think I was visiting mom, and then I asked her, tell me about cancer, like of the testicular cancer or whatever it's called. Then she says, why? I said, no, because this guy says he's got cancer. Then she says, what are the symptoms? So I told her, and then he goes like, no. She goes like, that's not cancer. He's lying, he doesn't have cancer. And I went back and I told him, you don't have cancer. What you have is this and this and this and this. And I caught him in his own lie, and he really looked shamefaced, because he knew what he had, and he knew what he had been lying. So and I couldn't understand, like, why are you using something so huge? This is a huge illness that you're using. It's a condition to make me stay. That was my very first dose of emotional abuse. The second was, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to kill myself. If you leave me, I'm going to kill myself.
If you leave me, I'll die.
To this day, if you come to me claiming you love me and you talk about how you want to kill yourself, stay away from me. Like, just stay away from me, so that by the time you're killing yourself, I'm nowhere near you. Like, you don't know what that does to people. So you're not going to come to me and tell me that you want to kill yourself. That is one of the meanest forms of emotional abuse. Telling somebody you're going to die if they leave you. How have you didn't die before them? How are you going to die now? You know? No, I'm going to kill myself. Why are you going to kill? How do you make a person your lifeline? It's also a lie. Most of them don't even kill themselves. Anyway, have you gone through any forms of emotional abuse? Have you been emotionally manipulative?
I think.
Also, what is this? Did somebody emotionally, physically abuse you?
I think I have a love pimple.
Oh, okay.
I don't know,
It's probably because of
physical
Boldcast.
abuse. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think I've been on both sides. By the way, I was married. I've been on both sides.
Yes, someone tried to kill themselves over you.
I've
It's not
had,
funny, but then she's still alive, so I can still laugh.
I've had someone who almost successfully ended her life over me, and that was the biggest scare. One of my biggest scares, especially that she almost lost her life, and she
was in
drank
UTH for some time.
for some time. She drank a lot of poison and came all the way to my mother's house and collapsed at the veranda. You know, she came to die at my place.
Yes, I'm laughing.
And I was just home with mom, and mom was bathing, so I literally had no one to. I was confused. I had to call her own family saying, your person is here and she's dying, so
And the family was like, if she just dies.
if she dies, and yeah, and they made it a police case, and they didn't know that it would work against them, because now the police wanted to arrest their child.
Yeah.
That she's the one that committed the crime. So I had someone that tried to end their life over me, and I've also had people that threw around that statement. If you leave me, I'll die. If you leave me, I'll kill myself. I've had people that have thrown it around, but also I've been that person. I have been that person that has thrown that statement at someone and said, you know what, I'll kill myself. I'll die. I've also been the person that has thrown around phones, breaks a phone because I'm upset. I've been the person that hits the walls, almost messed up my hand because I'm upset. I've been the person that has used demeaning words, harsh words towards my ex-wife, and I remember there was a point when we went separate ways, when I blamed her so much, and she was on the other side and she also blamed me. But in that moment, I think we were both just too broken. And when the healing came, I realized, you know what? She's a beautiful soul. She's an amazing person, and she's the best mother that my child could ever have. And I realized we both weren't ready to handle our own emotions and each other in that moment. We were young, emotionally, mentally. We were young. We were broken. We were not ready. But that does not make her a bad person. Doesn't make me a bad person. We were just not ready for each other. And I've been that person.
Something that I learned from my counseling course was it's one of the highest forms of peace is when you're really self-aware. And actually, I've been commended for being self-aware. And I've come a long way to know what is wrong, what is right, what I've done wrong, what I'm doing right, and what I've done right. So at this point, if somebody came to me and pointed out to me that I was abusive towards them, I'll actually admit if I was. I'm a person that has no qualms admitting my wrong, and I'm a person who will call you out when you're making me feel some type of way. Like, I will not let you gaslight me. I will not let you make me think I'm being paranoid, because I've been through so much of that in so many relationships that I will not let anybody who is not self-aware and who's not ready to own or acknowledge that what they're doing is wrong, because it's something they grew up with and it's something that society accepts, and they think I should accept it too. So it's usually remember what I used to tell you when you would say you're failed married, and I'll tell you it wasn't a failed marriage. It was just two people who were not ready or shouldn't have been together for such a long time commitment. And I remember when you were dissolving the marriage, I looked very controversial in front of the elders when I said, no guys, like
you were accused of
breaking up your marriage. But for me it was, look, they don't need to be together. If in this union one is being physically abusive, the other one is being verbally abusive, what's going to happen? What is going to happen when this stuff escalates? If it really gets really physical, badly physical, I might lose a brother, I might lose a sister-in-law, I might lose the mother of my niece. What is going to happen? And you're going to lose a daughter, I'm going to lose a brother. And they did get that. For them it was, marriage needs to work. No, if it's not working, walk away. Let them walk away. And they were really young. So I'm actually happy that now they're growing in their own space. I'm pretty sure your next unions, if there will be, you have learned. So digital abuse says digital dating abuse is the use of technologies like texting and social media to bully, harass, stalk, or intimidate a partner. This behavior is often a form of verbal or emotional abuse conducted online. Examples of digital abuse include telling you who can or can't follow or be friends with on social media. Why does she keep on react? Why is she
Why
saying
are you
this?
friends with this person?
Mm-hmm. Sending you negative, insulting, or threatening messages or emails. Yeah. Using social media to track your activity.
This is common too.
Yes, this is very common. No, but you're online, but you're whatever, but you posted a photo with me, but insulting or humiliating you in their posts online, including posting unflattering photos or videos, sending, requesting, or pressuring you to send unwanted explicit photos, videos, sex or otherwise compromising messages, stealing or pressuring you to share your account passwords. I don't do that. We don't do that here. Constantly texting you or making you feel like you can't be separated from your phone. Looking through your phone or checking up on your pictures, texts, or phone records. Using any kind of technology such as spyware, GPS in a car or a phone to monitor your activities. Yeah.
And this type of abuse is not one that is commonly talked about. Therefore, it is probably one of the ones that is heavily committed and we are not even aware of.
Creating fake accounts, catfishing, all that. That's digital abuse.
Also, telling your friends to text your partner to see if they can or they can't cheat on you. That probably falls under digital, and emotional abuse. It is common. I don't even know why people do it.
It's part of love.
No, it's not.
Isn't every kind of abuse spoken as part of love? It's part of love.
Katebe Chenko says, I was once in an emotional abusive relationship. He linked my phone to his and would read all my messages. Wanted to find out who I was talking to, stalking my friends, my sisters, workmates. I stayed because I believed he was my quote-unquote best friend and we were high school sweethearts. We would go out drinking and partying, so I was okay. It was a very unhealthy experience that the day I decided to leave, it was a shock to me too. Years later, he's my friend, but at some point I addressed the matter with him and he opened up about the physical abuse he witnessed as a kid. We need to address emotional abuse issues in relationships. Margaret says abuse is real, we need to change this. Lois Yui says relationships can still be toxic and abusive even without being physical. A lot don't know that throwing her phone when they're upset is abuse. Sophie Bianca Walia says, you're a really strong woman and a good mother. Amanda, heart emojis. Jenny.
You always smile when Amanda. He always smiles when it's Amanda. He goes, Amanda.
Amanda is like my sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sophie says, all that abuse. Crying face emojis. Mkuka Chanda, my guy.
In Dandy Gracie's voice, Twagura Mfilamba.
Mkuka Chanda does it, heart emoji here. Big shout out to you, Mkuka. And Lucy Snater says, we need to change our view on abuse. None should be tolerated. Jenny, sad face emojis. Makaika Nkonde says, tuned in. And Tutu Nana says, how did you survive all that abuse? Which we answer. Chinky says, hey, okay, I have learned a lot later. I didn't know some were a form of abuse, thought it was normal. Angela Moses says, tuned in. Vixen says, I'm late, but glad I'm here. Musonda says, wow. Leo says, tuned in. Dorothy says, always enjoy the show. Chikusela Ella Shimbami says, tuned in. And Chikusela says, watching. Daisy says, enjoying the show. Lulu says, watching. Kara says, watching from Chongwei. Matanda Simangaliso says, this is emotional. Hugs. And Cindy, good to know you're watching. And Charlie, Jordan, Friday, Ziki Sakala, Mildred Mwanza, and Patience Nachi Nsambwe. Good to know you're all watching. Those are some of the comments that we have. But one question that stands out from all these comments as we head to wrap up is, how did you survive all of that?
Of late, I've been saying I don't like being called strong, because people will say, oh, you're so strong. No, I'm not strong. And I say this over and over. Most of the stuff that life threw at me, my only option was to be strong. So maybe that's why you think I'm strong. I'm not strong. That is, strength was the only option I had. I could have easily also killed myself. I could have easily, I could have offed myself. But I really wanted to live. I'm a person who, if you ever meet somebody who tells you that I'm suicidal, please know they're lying. They're lying through their teeth. I am very pro-life. It doesn't matter if I'm down at the bottom, I have nowhere to sleep, nowhere to go. I really want to see what the next chapter of life holds. I always believe there's a next chapter and maybe it will be better and whatever. So I always want to survive. So survival strength is my option almost all the time. And that's why maybe you people call me strong, but I really don't like the word strong, because when you call me strong, it means at that point when you're feeling weak, I should be strong for you. I want to be known as a person who, I have cried, I still cry. The things that happened to me, it's not like I stood and I was Superman and they didn't hurt, they hurt. So it's just really looking forward to the next chapter of life. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And someone is watching, listening out there, and they're probably...
This is not Christian boys.
I know. But they've gone through this and maybe they haven't healed from it. Healing comes differently for different people. And maybe they're still going through this, don't know who to talk to. Maybe they're locked up, maybe they've been alienated. And there's probably some groups out there, there's probably some organizations out there, or someone they can talk to. If not you, who can they contact? Who can they reach out to?
Okay, so if they reach out to me, right now what I'm doing is, if you reach out to me, I'm going to give you numbers of counselors or therapists that were in the same cohort as I. And believe me, you have to pay. You are not going to come and talk to me for free now. So I'll refer you to these people. Then there's other places where you can get counseling. There are places like Renaissance. It's in Woodlands. There's places like Strong Minds. Strong Minds is in Rhodes Park. They do group therapy. There's places like Decisive Minds. Decisive Minds helps a lot with substance abuse. But yes, I'm sure you can get a therapist from there or a counselor who can talk to you. There's the YWCA. There's who else? There's UTH Clinic 6. There's UNZA, the Department of Psychology. That's where my first therapist was from. Then there's what's this place in Roma? Psych Health. Look at me off the top of my head talking about. Then I have numbers of therapists, like professional therapists and counselors that can see you on a one-on-one basis. We are working towards, a friend of mine and I were working towards a mental health thing that we're calling the backyard. So this is like group therapy that we can just do in the backyard. At first, I wanted it for a specific group of people, but I've found that like my inbox is always full of, doesn't matter whether they're married or they're unmarried or whatever orientation they are, whatever religion, creed, whatever, like people are just okay to talk. And I thought, okay, fine, we'll just be doing these group therapy sessions or one-on-one, whatever it is. I've actually had a few already, one-on-one. They just come, we sit under the mango tree and we talk. I also saw something yesterday on Facebook called Pamoja. It's the first time it just appeared in my feed, and apparently they're also doing group therapy thingies. I have a whole list. I can share the list with you. I think it's at home, but I have a whole list of centers where you can get counseling and therapy from. If you can get in touch, I'll refer them to you. I'll refer them to you, or you to them. Yeah.
All right. And well, time has really run out. Today must be the longest episode of Boldcast.
Has it?
Yes. And
not really. It's just like an hour. So apparently, when you're doing podcasts or whatever, social media etiquette demands that we do shout outs to people that are always tuned in. I think I'll do that next week, because I really know, like from my end, I know people that are always
do some shout outs.
Oh, there's Katebe for one. Katebe always demands for the poster so that she can put it on her status and hype. There's Makaika. My copper belt people. I have copper belt people that love me. There's Makaika, there's Katebe, there's Karen. Like always, these are always tuned in. And Chikusela, you're not even copper belt. But yeah, I know from the top of my head, these three, every time there's a poster, they always demand, where's the poster? And Linda, yeah. So yeah, those are some of the people that are always bugging me for what's the next episode. And Lucy, my white woman from Germany.
I saw in the comment section somewhere.
Lucy Snater, like my white woman from Germany. She will even call you on a Friday and say, Milo Podcast. So thank you so much. Yeah. And everybody that's always in the comment sections, because now I can hear the same names over and over. Yes, thank you so much for watching us. I hope today I was engaging with the camera, because this is the feedback I've been getting. You don't look at the camera. I'm shy. I've been through so much abuse. So
Speaking of the comment section, two of the latest comments from Angela Mwanza says, digital abuse. Someone once told me to share my FB password with them or delete my account. I foolishly did, and the person forced me to change my SIM cards. He went as far as buying me the 2 SIM cards so that I throw the old ones. And Evelyn, Wale's owner, says, emotional abuse is one of the biggest forms of abuse, which needs to be talked about. I agree.
Yeah.
And we'll keep talking about such topics here on Boldcast. And we have a lot more episodes coming up. These 13 episodes are just to set the ground and create the foundation. But after that, we will have a lot more conversations and bring people on. And so it's not just 13, it will go way beyond 13.
Set in Pentecostal language, set precedence. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we have to end our broadcast for today, right here, right now, and find out what we are talking about next week. But keep your eyes glued to this page, and we'll be sharing a few tips and wrap-ups of stories following our topics that we'll talk about here on our page. So from me, this is goodbye.
Bye. Catch you next week.